Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Connection with another Mutant Monday, and as we've been doing the last few Mutant Mondays, and we'll be doing the next few, we'll be looking at House of X number 3. So where we left off in the present day storyline, the X-Men had discovered Orcus, the organization introduced in the first issue, who are operating out of a base called the Forge, which orbits the sun. Which is, hey, location, right? Anyway, so we go with a quote, as every other issue has. This one accredited to Professor X. "You make me so proud." So, on Krakoa, Cyclops has put together a team to attack the Forge. Xavier and Magneto are both he's reporting to the two of them before leaving. And Xavier says, hey, you're afraid you're going to die. Yeah. And that Cyclops makes him proud. In fact, the quote from the beginning of the issue is right here. Xavier saying, "You make me so proud," to Xavier, or to Cyclops, and he tells him that that Cyclops is not going to die because Xavier won't allow it. And then Magneto adds that the righteous can never truly die; they live on, transformed into something immortal by their mighty works. For you to die, you would have to be forgotten, and no one forgets the founder of a nation. So, Cyclops steps through a portal and arrives in the hangar. The team he's put together consists of Mystique, Nightcrawler, Marvel Girl, M, Monet St. Croix, Archangel, Wolverine, and I think that's supposed to be Husk. That's the best guess I've got. So, they go over the plan, trash the mother mold, regardless of what it takes. But let's try not to kill. Let's try to keep the casualties as close to zero as possible. Wolverine kind of has a different viewpoint on it, as everyone on that station is a combatant. Though Jean disagrees with him because, hey, they're just scientists. But Wolverine makes an excellent point. Just scientists, huh? How exactly do you think humans went from sticks to bombs? So, okay, now we have the Sentinel to Nimrod progression. The Alpha Sentinel, non-sentient mutant hunting robots based on non-replicating adaptive technology. This is the Mark 1 through Mark 8 versions of the Sentinel. Next up is the Master Mold, a replicating adaptive, fixed or mobile, Sentinel factory that is self-aware and capable of creating Sentinel drones. Next is Mother Mold, a replicating adaptive Sentinel factory that is self-aware and capable of creating Master Molds. While a Master Mold is incapable of improving beyond its ultimate Sentinel state, it's theorized that, given enough time, a Mother Mold is capable of producing purely adaptable machines based on nano-Sentinel technology. Next up, we have the Omega Sentinel, a human infected with the nano-Sentinel technology and progressively transformed from human to machine. There's also a write-up on the Omega cycle, how the steps from one goes from being human to Omega Sentinel. And finally, Nimrod, a pure nano-Sentinel construct, anti-mutant, adaptive, self-aware, self-replicating, virtually indestructible. Then we have, when it comes to the write-up on Nimrod here, a Nimrod is an end-state nano-Sentinel construct. Moira X has learned that while emergent AIs are unavoidable, An anti-mutant Nimrod is not. It is a product of a particular intent, manufactured for a purpose. Moira X and Apocalypse theorize that a Nimrod is the primal threat to the long-term survival of mutants. Moira and Apocalypse attempt to acquire the information surrounding Nimrod's origin. And Nimrod acquires the incomplete Nimrod origin files in the future timeline. Moira's ninth life. Nimrod origin files imply the raw developmental processing power necessary to produce a Nimrod is essentially dependent on certain technology thresholds being reached. A Nimrod almost always occurs in conjunction or resulting from a mother mold. Moira dies, Moira reincarnates. Moira and Charles Xavier task several mutant technopaths with creating a system, Sleeping Giant, to monitor for Nimrod technological thresholds being reached and or the attempted creation of a mother mold. Then the Orcus Protocol is enacted. Moira and Charles discover Orcus through Sleeping Giant. Okay, alright. Charles and Magneto acquire plans to the Orcus Forge, Soul's Hammer, home of a dormant but soon-to-be active mother mold. Charles Xavier and Magneto task the X-Men with destroying the mother mold and preventing the creation of Nimrod. We have another write-up here on Project Achilles. Department of State, USA. Project Achilles is a superhuman, super-maximum security prison. Built to house only a maximum of 30 superpowered criminals, the worst of the worst. Achilles has all the necessary components on site to comply with all legal and extra-constitutional requirements, along with a security and judicial staff that rotates on and off site every 3 months. Once someone arrives at Achilles, they stay at Achilles until their shift is over. The only exceptions are for an external breach or a loss of containment. Civilian access and special admittance to Achilles is only possible with a dispensation from the United States Department of State. There's a pre-approved list of civilians, almost all immediate and extended family, is allowed access to the inmates once a year, but to date, no one has ever requested such a visit. So we cut to Project Achilles, where Sabretooth is being tried for the crimes he committed in House of X #1. The AG president also states that if she could add it to the list of charges, she'd also charge him with bad manners. Sabretooth basically says, yeah, I'm guilty of bad manners. And everything else that I'm being charged with too. And he proceeds to threaten everyone present, and then he sniffs some jasmine on the air. And in walks Emma Frost. So, what Emma explains. The correct position to assume is that, first she informs the judge that there's quite a difference between what's getting ready to happen and what it really means. And the judge has to be enlightened. Well, that's exactly the correct position to assume. So, what's going to happen is that they're going to surrender Sabretooth to her. She also makes a point of correcting the two of the cuckoos arrive with her, mutant names only. They're going to give him to her because, in anticipation of Krakoa becoming a sovereign nation, all Krakoans on United States soil, natural born or otherwise, now enjoy the privilege of diplomatic immunity. A recent gift from the State Department. They do admit, though, that they don't have to unchain Sabretooth. They can leave him in those. The AG does not think this is just like, no. But, Emma then states that what this all means is that they don't answer to humans anymore. And it's even stated that, yeah, he is a monster. Emma states, yeah, Sabretooth's a monster, but he's their monster. And from this day forward, mutants won't be judged in human courts, or by the likes of people present at Project Achilles. The AG basically sticks a gun in Emma's face, and Emma says, normally she would dominate the mind of her mind and make her, as she puts it, make you stick that gun where your last boyfriend left you. But I've been told the art of diplomacy is about equalizing power dynamics. So why don't you pretend that some larger American purpose is being served here today, and I'll pretend like you could have stopped me. And as as Emma the Cuckoos and Sabretooth leave, she says, "It's a brave new world, darlings. Best get used to it." Now we have the write-up on the Omega Cycle, which is the process by which a human becomes an Omega Sentinel. It's an 8-step process. First, you have infection. Human host is injected with nanosentinel technology. Followed by nesting. Self-replicating biological machines propagate in the host. Replication. Biological machines replace existing host systems and organs. Next, we have dormancy. During the dormant period, the biological host is partially transformed from organic to machine. Next up comes activation. Post-dormancy transformation. The host becomes operative and is capable of activating in proximity to a mutant. There was actually a similar... DC had a similar concept called OMAC during Infinite Crisis. Basically, civilians were injected... A nanovirus was put in some vaccines, and so random people were injected with it. And then when the OMAC protocol was enacted, whenever they were around a known superhuman, they would change and become an adaptive, basically an adaptive weaponized drone, which was actually really cool to see. I mean, they'd be like, "Oh, hey, I'm facing Alan Scott. Yeah, I'm facing Alan Scott Green Lantern. Okay, so I basically have to utilize wood." Or, "Oh, hey, I'm facing Superman. Okay, green kryptonite radiation." So on and so forth. Anyway, next up is Union. Step 6, Union. Post-activation, the human host becomes aware of the combined consciousnesses of it and the sentinel directives that it has been infected with. This is almost always a prolonged process that mirrors those recovering from trauma. Step 7, adaptation. Total integration of host and machine. And finally, Step 8, Omega. Total machine state. Now, back at the Orcus Forge, Kramer Shandapar, former Omega, once upon a time an Omega Sentinel, is walking with Dr. Gregor and passing along her opinions about everything. For example, she believes that maybe this is kind of a mistake. And that maybe Orcus is panicking a bit. And that they need to be very careful because the second Orcus loses control of the mother mold, it's hard not to see the entire planetary system covered in cold, emotionless gray and not a single pink, fleshy bit in sight. So the X-Men arrive, and we also get a breakdown of their vessel. It's a modified Shi'ar scout ship, which is beyond the defensive capabilities of the Forge. They have no way to stop it. And they've already recalled the drones from Mercury, but they won't get there in time. So they have to be prepared for a breach. So the plan is to get into the station and make sure that the plans they have are correct, and that there are 4 locations for the mother mold ejection collar. there are 4 points they have access to eject Mother Mold from the forge. So they want to make sure that those 4 points are where the plans say they are. So Nightcrawler teleports in and is discovered by Karima and Dr. Gregor. And, well, yeah. So they know, okay, Nightcrawler is part of the X-Men strike team. But the X-Men dock onto the Forge and begin to make their own way in. But Erasmus, Dr. Gregor's lover, happens to be in the sector where they're trying to make their own entrance, and disassembles his weapon and turns it into a bomb, which he then detonates, which seemingly manages to destroy their ship. And the issue ends with a quote from Magneto from earlier in the issue: "For you to die, you would have to be forgotten, and no one forgets the founder of a nation." And that is where the issue comes to its end. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. Hit the bell icon to be notified when I put new content. This is Rockwell Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.